The sun streamed through my Colorado kitchen window as I sipped my morning coffee. Peace had become my normal these past few years. Then my phone pinged with a notification. Unknown sender. Subject line, please read. First line, Dorian. The first line. I have been looking for you for 7 years. My coffee suddenly tasted bitter. Amelia, the wife I left without warning after discovering her affair with her boss. The woman who never knew I had seen everything. My heart raced as memories flooded back. So, before I continue this story, where are you watching from? Hit subscribe if you have ever had to make a difficult choice to protect your mental health. And let me know in the comments if you would read messages from someone who betrayed you. I was 34 when my world fell apart. A Seattle native with a comfortable career in software engineering, I had followed the relationship blueprint. My parents modeled, meet someone special, build a life together, never break trust. Growing up with their 40-year marriage as my reference point, I genuinely believed that relationships could last forever if both people remained honest and committed. My friends often teased me for being pathologically trusting, Betrayal, a quality that would eventually lead to my downfall. 6 years after college, my college roommate Tyler invited me to his wedding in Portland. That is where I met Amelia. She was a bridesmaid, tall with chestnut hair that caught the light and a laugh that made everyone around her smile. We found ourselves at the same table during the reception and discovered we both loved hiking the Pacific Northwest trails and had an odd, shared passion for black and white films from the 1950s. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and by the end of the night, I had her number. Our first date was at a small French bistro downtown. I remember being struck by how present she seemed, none of that constant phone checking that had become the norm on dates. She asked thoughtful questions about my work designing user interfaces and actually seemed interested in my explanations. When I drove her home, she invited me in for coffee, but I declined. I wanted to do this right. She smiled approvingly, and I knew I had made the correct choice. 8 months of dating flew by each day, cementing my certainty that Amelia was the person I wanted to build a life with. Our relationship progressed naturally. Weekend getaways to the mountains, meeting each other's friends and family, learning each other's quirks and habits. Her cat Fitzgerald even warmed up to me, which Amelia insisted was the final seal of approval. When we moved in together, it felt like the most natural next step. My apartment was larger, so she brought her favorite furniture pieces and art. Within weeks, our separate lives had blended into one shared existence. My friends welcomed her immediately, especially Mason, my best friend since childhood, who pulled me aside at a barbecue to tell me, "This one is different, Dorian. Do not mess this up." As if the universe was endorsing our relationship, I received a substantial promotion at work right as I was planning to propose. It meant more responsibility, but also a significant salary increase. The timing seemed perfect for starting our next chapter. I proposed during a hike to our favorite waterfall, dropping to one knee on the wooden observation platform, with the roaring falls as our backdrop. Her eyes welled up with tears as she said yes. The photo a passing hiker took of us became our engagement announcement. We married 8 months later in a small ceremony at a historic lodge on the Olympic Peninsula. Just 40 guests, our closest friends and family. Amelia wore a simple lace dress, and I remember the wave of emotion that hit me when I saw her walking down the aisle with her father. We wrote our own vows, and I promised to always be honest, loyal, and her biggest supporter. She promised the same. We sealed those promises with a kiss as our loved ones cheered. Our first 2 years of marriage were genuinely happy. We bought a 1950s craftsman-style house that needed work and spent weekends painting walls and refinishing hardwood floors. Every decision felt like we were building something meaningful together. Saturdays became our tradition: farmers market in the morning, coffee at our favorite local shop, then home to cook something new with our fresh ingredients. Sunday evenings, we would plan our week ahead, synchronizing calendars and making sure we carved out quality time despite our busy schedules. Things began to shift in our third year when Amelia landed a position at Meridian, a prestigious marketing firm downtown. She had been aiming for this career move since we met, and I was thrilled for her success. The job came with more responsibilities than her previous position, including client dinners and occasional business trips. I fully supported her ambitions and picked up more household duties to help her manage the transition. Gradually, the late nights at the office became more frequent. The weekend business trips extended from one night to three. Her phone, once casually left on countertops or coffee tables, now seemed permanently attached to her hand, and she had added a passcode. When texts came through, she would turn the screen away slightly or step into another room to respond. I noticed, but dismissed my concerns as paranoia. After all, client confidentiality was important in her line of work. Then came the credit card statements with charges from restaurants I had never heard of on nights she said she was working late at the office, a hotel bar charge when she was supposedly at a conference where meals were provided, expensive gym memberships I never knew about. Her wardrobe underwent a gradual but noticeable upgrade: designer dresses, high-end shoes, lingerie receipts in her email that never materialized as gifts to me. "You seem distracted lately," she said one night over dinner. "Everything okay at work?" Just thinking about the Johnson project, I lied, my mind actually racing with questions I was afraid to ask. How had we gone from complete transparency to this? "You work too hard," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. The gesture felt mechanical, rehearsed. "Maybe we should plan a weekend getaway soon." "That would be nice," I replied, though the suggested trip never materialized beyond that conversation. Despite the growing knot in my stomach, I continued making excuses for the changes. She was building her career. These were growing pains in our relationship. All couples go through phases. But deep down, a voice was whispering that something was very wrong. The truth found me on a Tuesday in April when Amelia was on day 2 of a 4-day marketing conference in Chicago. She had left in a rush Monday morning and in her haste forgotten her laptop. Not her work laptop that was with her, but our shared personal one we kept in the home office. I needed to finish a project from home that day, and my own computer was being repaired, so I opened hers without a second thought. As I logged in with our shared password, a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. A message from someone named "Jason missing you already." Last night was incredible. My finger hovered over the notification. This was an invasion of privacy. But was privacy even a concept in a marriage? We had always operated with an open phone policy, no secrets between us. Until recently, I clicked. The message opened to reveal months of conversations between Amelia and Jason Bennett, her direct supervisor at Meridian. The same Jason she had complained about being demanding and difficult to work with. The same Jason who was married with 2 young children. The same Jason who had been to our home for a dinner party just months earlier, his wife Sarah by his side. I scrolled through message after message, each one more intimate than the last. They had been seeing each other for over a year. I found hotel confirmations, dinner reservations, inside jokes about their deception, photos I could never unsee. There were screenshots of their conversations planning rendezvous while I was on business trips or working late, detailed accounts of their time together, specifics that cut through me like physical wounds. For 3 days, I lived with this knowledge, sleeping beside the empty space in our bed, waiting for her return. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would confront her calmly and with dignity. I would not yell. I would not break things. I would simply present the evidence and ask for the truth. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe we could fix this. The rational part of my brain knew these were desperate hopes, but I clung to them anyway. When she returned Friday evening, I had prepared her favorite meal, a peace offering of sorts, before the storm. She seemed distracted, barely touching her food, checking her phone under the table. "We need to talk, Amelia," I finally said, my voice surprisingly steady. About what her tone was defensive, immediately, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "I think you know," I said quietly. "I found the messages between you and Jason." The color drained from her face, but before she could respond, her phone rang. Jason's name flashed on the screen. She glanced at it, then at me. "I should take this," she said, already standing. "It is probably about the Peterson account. Now, we are in the middle of discussing our marriage." "It will just take a minute," she insisted, already walking to our back porch, closing the door behind her. Through the window, I watched my wife laugh into the phone, her body language relaxed and intimate in a way it had not been with me for months. I heard her make dinner plans for Sunday, well, another work trip she had scheduled for the coming week. That night, we slept in silence, the confrontation unfinished. Amelia acted as if nothing had happened, and I was too numb, too shocked by her brazen disregard to push further. The next day she left for a girls' shopping day that I now knew was another meetup with Jason. While she was gone, I investigated further. On our shared desktop computer, I discovered a second email account I never knew existed. The inbox contained years of correspondence between her and Jason, dating back to just 3 months after she started at Meridian. Beyond the affair, details were things far more painful. Messages where they mocked me, my trusting nature, my obliviousness. They had been intimate in our home, in our bed. She complained about my quirks, shared private jokes at my expense. Worse still, I found a document where she had researched divorce attorneys 2 months earlier. She had been planning her exit strategy while I was still planning our future. Small transfers to a private account I never knew about appeared in our financial records, nothing large enough to trigger my attention, but significant when totaled across many months. The most devastating discovery came in an email where she shared with Jason a deeply personal story I had told her about my childhood, about my parents' brief separation when I was 12, and the abandonment issues it had created. "He is still so wounded from it," she wrote. "Makes him easy to manage, so afraid of losing people that he never questions anything." They had laughed about my deepest insecurities, my most vulnerable confessions. The weight of these discoveries crushed me. For a week, I moved through our home like a ghost, unable to eat, to sleep, to function. I called in sick to work, claiming a severe flu. I lost 10 pounds. My mind kept replaying every moment of our relationship, recategorizing memories from authentic connection to skilled manipulation. One night, the physical manifestations of my emotional state culminated in what I thought was a heart attack. Chest pain, shortness of breath, numbness in my left arm. I drove myself to the emergency room at 3 in the morning. After tests and monitoring, the doctor diagnosed a severe panic attack and recommended follow-up with a therapist. When I returned home the next morning, Mason was sitting on my front porch. One of our mutual friends had seen me at the hospital and called him Jesus Dorian, he said, taking in my appearance. "What the hell is happening to you?" I broke down, then telling him everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression darkening with each new detail. When I finished, he insisted I pack a bag and come stay at his place. "You cannot heal in the environment that is making you sick," he said, words that would prove prophetic. At Mason's apartment, with physical and emotional distance from Amelia, clarity began to emerge from the fog of betrayal. My friend connected me with his therapist, who could see me on an emergency basis. Dr. Levine specialized in betrayal trauma and helped me understand what was happening to me physiologically and psychologically. "Your body is responding as if you are in physical danger," she explained during our first session, "because emotionally you are. This relationship has become unsafe for you." Over several intensive sessions, we discussed the patterns of manipulation, the gaslighting, and the profound breach of trust. When I mentioned my plan to confront Amelia again, to demand answers and explanations, Doctor, Levine asked a question that stopped me cold. What outcome do you actually want from that conversation? I realized then that any explanation would be insufficient. Any apology would be hollow. Any promise to change would be suspect. The relationship as I had understood it had never existed. The woman I thought I married was a carefully crafted fiction. Sometimes, Doctor, Levine said gently, the healthiest closure is the one you give yourself. Around the same time, I consulted with a divorce attorney who reviewed the evidence I had gathered. She confirmed what I suspected: Amelia's documented infidelity, financial deception, and the fact that most major assets were in my name or purchased with my inheritance gave me a strong position legally. But you need to protect yourself, my attorney warned. Based on what you have shown me, she has been planning this methodically. You should expect the same in a divorce. The final breaking point came when Mason reluctantly showed me something a mutual friend had discovered: Amelia's active dating profile on an app specifically for finding discreet relationships. Her profile, using a pseudonym, but unmistakably, her photos stated she was married, but exploring and looking for no-strings excitement. It had been active for nearly 2 years. Something shifted in me then. The devastation transformed into a cold, clear resolve. I would not give Amelia the satisfaction of a messy confrontation. I would not plead for explanations or closure. I would not allow her to manipulate the narrative of our ending as she had manipulated our beginning and middle. I would simply disappear from her life as completely as if I had never been there. The plan formed with unexpected precision. I applied for remote positions at companies requiring my specific skill set, focusing on locations far from Seattle. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 offers. I accepted a senior position with a tech firm in Denver, Colorado, negotiating a quick start date and relocation assistance. While Amelia was at work, I systematically prepared for my exit. I gathered all essential documents: birth certificate, passport, financial records, family heirlooms. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and transferred my personal savings, careful to leave our joint accounts untouched for now. I forwarded my mail to a post office box Mason would check for me. The lawyer helped me document everything: the evidence of infidelity financial records showing Amelia's secret account and an inventory of our assets. We prepared divorce papers citing irreconcilable differences and her documented adultery with a fair but firm division of property that left her the house and most of its contents. I found a furnished short-term rental in Denver's Highland neighborhood and paid 3 months in advance. I sold or donated belongings that held no sentimental value. The things that mattered: my grandfather's watch photo albums from before Amelia, the first edition books my parents had given me, went into a single suitcase. 2 weeks later, Amelia announced she was going away for a girls' weekend in Portland. Through mutual connections, I confirmed she was actually meeting Jason at a coastal resort. The timing was perfect. The morning she left, Mason arrived with his truck and 2 other friends. In 8 efficient hours, we packed everything I wanted to keep into Mason's truck and my SUV. No furniture, no appliances, no shared purchases, just my clothes, personal items, professional equipment, and the few sentimental pieces I had identified. On the dining room table, I left a manila envelope containing the divorce papers already filed with the court. Beside it, a single handwritten note: I know everything. The house and stuff are yours. No explanation, no accusations, no opportunity for her to spin a counter-narrative. I changed my phone number, deleted all social media accounts, and set up email filters to automatically archive anything from Amelia or common contacts. I hugged Mason goodbye, promising to call when I reached Denver, and began the 14-hour drive toward my new life. The entire journey I waited for regret or second thoughts to surface. They never did. With each mile marker, The knot in my chest loosened slightly. By the time I crossed the Colorado state line, I felt something unexpected relief. 3 days after I arrived in Denver, Mason called as planned from a new number I had given only him. She came home early, he reported. Apparently called you 20 times before realizing your number was changed. She has been going ballistic, showing up at my place, calling everyone we know. Jason apparently dumped her when she told him what happened. Seems he was fine with cheating, but not with the drama of a divorce. Has she signed the papers? I asked the only detail that mattered to me. Not yet, but her parents are involved now. They are pretty mortified by the whole thing, especially since your lawyer apparently sent them copies of some of the evidence. I think they are pushing her to just sign and move on. Over the following months, reports filtered through Mason. Amelia had tried to contest the divorce, but backed down when my lawyer made it clear we were prepared to submit all evidence of the affair in court documents that would become public record. She had told mutual friends conflicting stories, that I was mentally unstable, that I had been the one cheating, that I had emptied our accounts. Not true. The court records would show I had left her with substantial resources. Most people saw through the contradictions. By the time the divorce was finalized 6 months later, I had not exchanged a single word directly with the woman I had once promised to love forever. The legal process had occurred entirely through attorneys. The house was transferred to her name. Financial accounts were officially separated. 7 years of my life were legally erased without a single conversation. My new life in Denver began as a deliberate exercise in reconstruction. The furnished apartment became my sanctuary, neutral space, untainted by shared history. I established new routines centered around healing, morning runs in City Park, weekend hikes in the nearby mountains, regular sessions with a new therapist, Dr. Calloway, who specialized in post-divorce recovery. Work became a healthy distraction. The new company culture emphasized work-life balance, and my team respected my boundaries around overtime and weekends. I built professional relationships slowly, cautiously, revealing personal details only as trust developed naturally. 6 months in, I joined a local hiking group, forcing myself to engage socially despite the instinct to isolate. Among them was Kevin, a transplant from Minnesota, whose straightforward friendliness reminded me of Mason. Through him, I gradually built a small circle of new friends who knew nothing about my past unless I chose to share it. The first year was hardest around anniversaries and holidays. Our wedding date, the day we met, Christmas without familiar traditions. But each passed, and the world did not end. I survived. More than survived, I began to rediscover parts of myself that had been submerged in my marriage. I took cooking classes, something Amelia had always dominated. I resumed playing guitar, a hobby I had abandoned when she commented once that it interfered with her work calls. Slowly, sleep became reliable again. The panic attacks subsided. I could think about Seattle without my chest tightening. Dr. Calloway helped me process not just the betrayal, but the lessons from it, how to establish boundaries, recognize red flags, trust my instincts, and, most challengingly, how to open myself to connection again without surrendering my identity. 2 years into my new life, the first message from Amelia arrived. Somehow, she had found my work email, which was publicly listed on the company website. Subject line, please. Message Dorian. I know I do not deserve your time, but I am begging for 5 minutes of conversation. What happened between us has destroyed me. I need closure. Please. I deleted it without responding and updated my company biography to remove my last name. 6 months later, she tried through Mason, who called to warn me. She showed up at my office today, he said. Looks rough, man. Said she has been in therapy, realized how badly she screwed up. Wanted your new contact info. What did you tell her? That if you wanted contact, you would have left a forwarding address. She did not take it well. A year after that, a handwritten letter arrived at my parents' home in Oregon. They forwarded it unopened with a note saying only, "Your choice, son. We support whatever you decide." I burned it without reading it. The pattern continued. Months of silence, followed by new attempts through increasingly creative channels. A message through a professional networking site. An email to the alumni office at my university. Once she even managed to get herself registered for an industry conference I was scheduled to speak at, though I canceled my appearance when a colleague mentioned seeing her name on the attendee list. Each time I maintained my silence. Each time the interruption to my peace grew shorter. Each time I felt more confident in my decision to deny her the closure conversation she claimed to need. 4 years into my new life, I met Sarah through a mutual friend's dinner party. A pediatric surgeon with kind eyes and a quiet confidence, she had her own history of relationship disappointments, but had done the work to heal from them. Our connection developed slowly, intentionally. 6 months of dating before exclusivity. Another 6 before meeting each other's friends. A full year before the first mention of a future together. When I finally told her about Amelia lying in bed after a day hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park, she listened without judgment. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said when I finished. "It explains a lot about why you move at the pace you do." "Does it bother you?" I asked. The cautiousness. Caution born from experience is not a flaw, Dorian. It is wisdom. With Sarah, I learned that true intimacy was built on honesty, not blind trust. That healthy love expanded rather than contracted your world. That respect looked like actions, not just words. For the first time since leaving Seattle, I began to consider a shared future that did not frighten me. Then came the email that opened this story. 7 years after I walked away, Amelia had somehow discovered I was living in Denver. Mason confirmed, through mutual connections, that she had indeed moved to the city 3 months earlier. A coffee shop barista, who knew me as a regular, mentioned a woman who matched her description asking questions about me. A neighbor reported seeing someone taking photos of my condo building. Her email was the most direct approach, yet Dorian. "I have been looking for you for 7 years. We both know why you left, and I have spent every day since then trying to become someone worthy of your forgiveness. I am not asking to reconcile. I just want one conversation, for both of us to have closure. I am living in Denver now, and I know you are too. Please, after all this time, just 30 minutes of your life, name the public place. Bring whoever would make you comfortable. I just need to say some things to your face, and then I promise I will never contact you again." I showed the email to Sarah, who knew about the previous contact attempts. Her response was characteristically measured. "What would serve your peace?" she asked simply. I thought about it for days. Consulted with Dr. Calloway. Discussed it with Mason during his visit to Denver. Considered what my life had become and where I wanted it to go. Finally, I made my decision. I contacted my attorney and had her send a formal cease and desist letter to Amelia's known email addresses and her new Denver address, which a private investigator easily located. The letter was simple. "Mr. Wilson has moved forward with his life and requests that you respect his clearly established boundary of no contact. Any further attempts to establish communication will be documented and may result in legal action. This is his final word on the matter." To my email, I set up an auto-reply that would go only to her address. "I have found peace and healing. I wish the same for you. Please look for closure within yourself, not from me. This email address will no longer receive your messages." Then I blocked her completely. That night, Sarah and I sat on the balcony of my condo, soon to be our condo after our upcoming move-in together. The Denver skyline glittered against the mountain backdrop as we shared a bottle of wine. "Do you regret anything?" she asked. About how you handled things with her, I considered the question honestly. I regret not trusting my instincts sooner. I regret the years I spent with someone who did not truly see or respect me, but walking away the way I did, I shook my head. No, it was the first time in our relationship I chose myself. It was the most honest thing I could have done. The truth is, ghosting Amelia was never about revenge. It was about protection, not just from her manipulation, but from my own tendency to prioritize others' closure over my own peace. By disappearing completely, I had taken back control over my story. By refusing engagement, I had denied her the opportunity to rewrite our ending. In the years since, I have learned that forgiveness does not require reconciliation. That closure is something you give yourself, not something you receive from others. That sometimes the most powerful statement is silence. I have also learned that real love looks nothing like what I had with Amelia. Real love respects boundaries, tells the truth, even when it is difficult, and wants the best for you, even at its own expense. Real love does not need to diminish you to elevate itself. Most importantly, I have learned that walking away from something destructive is not failure or cowardice." End quote. It is often the greatest act of self-respect possible. As Sarah leaned her head against my shoulder, I felt a profound gratitude for the path that had led me here. Had Amelia not betrayed me, had I not chosen the radical step of complete separation, I might never have discovered what healthy love actually feels like. I might never have become the man sitting on that balcony whole and at peace. So where are you in your own journey? Have you ever had to walk away from someone who wanted to keep you in their story? Leave a comment below about your experience with boundaries and healing. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more authentic stories of growth through adversity. And if you know someone struggling with whether to allow a toxic person back into their life, share this video as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful closure is the kind you give yourself. Thank you for listening, and remember, your peace is always worth protecting.